Along with Don't Look Under the Bed, I think many would consider The Tower of Terror to be amongst Disney's scariest films. And today I'm going to be talking about what might be considered the most dangerous child in all of Disney. And because I like witches and ghosts, this story is going to be full of them. Now make no mistake, Disney is no stranger to witches, ghosts, or villains. But what makes this particular villain so unique is the fact that it's a child. This child is not only a witch, but is also responsible for the deaths of many. Now let's get into the story. Now our story begins on Halloween night, 1939 at the Hollywood Tower Hotel. There's 5 people that board an elevator heading to the top floor of the hotel for a party. The first is Sally Shine, basically the Shirley Temple of the movie, America's sweetheart, and super famous actress. The second is Carolyn, another celebrity. Then we have Carolyn's boyfriend in the back, along with Sally's nanny, Emmeline, and the elevator man who works the elevator. And this party is supposed to be a really good time. There's celebrities there, good food, dancing. Overall, it's supposed to be a really good night. Sadly, the 5 people in the elevator never make it. And that's because the elevator was hit by lightning and the shaft never made it to the top. But strangely, those people disappeared. They were never seen or heard from again. Presumably, they died, but the mystery still stands because nobody could ever figure out what happened to them. Fast forward to the 1990s. There's a girl and her uncle. The uncle works at the National Enquirer or some newspaper, and sadly, he's just been let go for publishing false stories. So one day while in between jobs, an old woman approaches Buzzy with a story to tell. And this story is about the 1939 disappearance of those celebrities at the Hollywood Tower Hotel. Now, initially, Buzzy is not interested in this story. He thinks of it as a fraud and a hoax, but upon telling his niece about it, her interest in the story makes him want to pursue it. And so he does. Now, the name of the older woman helping Anna and Buzzy solve the mystery of the hotel is Abigail Gregory. Like I mentioned, Abigail claims to have been at the hotel the night of the disappearance. And by all accounts, she's a sweet older woman who's able to provide information about the hotel and the people who went missing inside of it. And one of the things that she tells the duo is that Emmeline, Sally's nanny, never really liked her and was a practicing witch, and that she was the one who cursed Sally and the people in the elevator to their doom. In addition to this, she talked about the hotel guest and Sally as a person and told them how she was this huge celebrity. Everyone loved her. And by all accounts, this is just a really sweet woman who is bent on solving the mystery as much as they are. Another thing Abigail helped the duo realize is that because magic was likely involved in the elevator disappearance, magic would likely have to be involved in order to undo the elevator disappearance. So when they go to the hotel to investigate, they find a magic book. This magic book prescribes a number of items needed to undo the curse of the elevator. And so Anna goes to collect these items, which include a lock of hair from Sally, a handkerchief, a hat, glasses, and a locket. All of these items that belong to the people who disappeared. And the idea is that having these items can help summon them back to this world. And so Anna willfully collects those items and she brings them back to Abigail. And this is where things take a sharp left turn. Now concurrently, while Anna and her uncle are trying to find the missing pieces for this spell, they're also doing some outside research about the hotel and the celebrities that disappeared. And this is when they find out a piece of information that neither one of them could have suspected. And that is that Sally Shine had a sister that basically fell under the radar. What's more is that as they continue their research during the course of the investigation, more and more supernatural events start to occur. And one of those times, the ghosts of the hotel actually start to materialize and show themselves. And it's during this instance that Emmeline, the famed hateful nanny of Sally Shine, reveals herself to both Anna and Buzzy. And this is where we find out that things are not always as they seem. Emmeline was no villain at all. In fact, she loved Sally. She thought of her like a daughter, and she died with her in the elevator that night. So why would Emmeline cast a spell that would kill not only Sally, but herself as well? It didn't make sense until they started to realize that Abigail happened to have an insane amount of knowledge about the hotel and the events that occurred that night. And in a strange twist of events, we find out that Abigail is not who she says she is either. And that's because Abigail is a witch. And not only is she a witch, but she's also Sally's sister, as pictured here. And this is where the events of that night unfold, because in addition to Emmeline appearing to Anna and Buzzy, so did Sally in an attempt to solve her own murder. Now this is where we find out that on that night of October 31st, 1939, There was a party happening. It wasn't a party for Sally like it was initially thought to have been. It was a party for Sally's sister Abigail. However, Abigail was unaware of this, and that's because it was supposed to be a surprise party. And so Abigail, feeling left out again and shunned in the spotlight of her sister Sally, decided to create a spell that would curse and doom those on the elevator. That happened to be Sally and the 4 guests with her. Now, despite Sally and Abigail reconciling towards the end of the film and all of the party guests eventually going up to heaven, what makes Abigail a particularly dark villain is her overwillingness to curse her sister. Now, I'm not entirely sure if the intent was to unalive that many people, but it was certainly to cause harm, and she managed to do so effectively. What makes it even worse is her desire to come back years later to finish out the spell in order to solidify the curse. What makes it all the more devious is the lengths she was willing to go to achieve her goals. For instance, bringing in Anna and Buzzy to help her find the items needed to complete the spell, lying on Emmeline and saying she was the one who hated Sally when in reality it was really her, and willing to unalive any number of people to ensure that Sally never came back again. This woman did this with no remorse. So the reality is, I think she might actually be Disney's worst villain, because she was also willing to do it for a second time, causing who knows how many casualties this time around. What's more is that she did this all while being confined to a sanatorium. She would literally be confined there at night and then be allowed out on day visits, so who knows how long she had been thinking about this. And I think it's lucky that between Anna and Buzzy, she did reconcile with Sally, because the reality is, I think she would have been more than willing to unalive them too. Now, I know as far as witches go, there is Winifred and the Sanderson sisters, but let's make no mistake, there was no deception in Winnie and her sisters. Their goal was clear from the jump. This woman here did a level of gaslighting that was unseen in Disney villains up until that point. The fact that this woman unalived her sister and many others and then came back years later to finish the job with the help of 2 unsuspecting people makes her one of the worst villains. I do want to point out that I'm not ignoring Abigail's pain of feeling overshadowed, left out, and ignored in lieu of her sister. I think that's something that's extremely painful. I get that. I empathize. That is a very hurtful feeling. However, her leap from feeling bad and left out and possibly fed up, which I get, to cursing people to their deaths is a bit of a jump for me, and so I think that's where I struggle in the gap. Anyways, let me know if you've seen Tower of Terror, what you think about the movies, if you want Disney to release it on Disney Plus, and I will see you guys in my next video.